All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast, where we're still covering the Big Ten, transfer portal, any offseason moves. We've got Minnesota today, diving into them. Marcus, we'll start with you. What's the biggest move Minnesota made at the transfer portal this offseason?
So I'm not really sure that a lot of media outlets agree with this. Torvik doesn't agree with it, but I really like Chancey Willis Jr. Obviously he's not a great 3-point shooter, right? That's kind of the one glaring stat that sticks out, 28.4% from three. But I really like this get for Minnesota. He averaged almost 6 assists last year. His assist rate was almost 39%. Quite a big number. He's a relentless downhill attacker, strong finisher. Averaged 17 on 4 boards as well. But I just think he's a great organizer of the offense, great passer, and something that this Minnesota team was kind of in desperate need for. A guy that can create, get downhill, and spray to guys and get them shots. So this is definitely my favorite move.
Cody, would you agree?
From an offensive talent standpoint, I do think he's going to be the most impactful offensive player on this team. I'm kind of in alignment there. It was kind of between him and a guy either Bobby Durkin or Langston Reynolds. I don't really love the outlook on Reynolds. He's a little bit too rim reliant. The perimeter game is really, really rough from him, and to be such a small guard. Well, he's a bigger guard, but being 6'4" and being extremely rim reliant, trying to move up to the Big Ten where the best front courts in the country are displayed, it's going to be a real jump for him. So I'm a little bit concerned about Reynolds' outlook. But yeah, I would agree that it is Willis, and he kind of nailed it on the head. I think he's relentless downhill driver. He finishes at the rim with physicality. He's only 6'2", but he plays a lot bigger than that. I mean, not like a super wide frame either. He's just kind of wiry. I mean, it's pretty impressive. The intensity that he plays with is really solid. He had a 38.5% assist rate compared to a 19% turnover rate. Not all that concerned about the turnover rate there. He played with a pretty poor offense at Central Michigan, so I'm not too concerned with that. And yeah, I think there's some real upside there as well. I mean, last year was his first season in Division I college hoops. I think he was playing JUCO before, so I mean, maybe there's another leap there. A year or two leap at the Division I level is something that we see from a lot of JUCO guys. So I think there's some upside there, and I think right now he's the best talent. Well, I mean, one guy that I think might have the most impact across the board is Jalen Crocker-Johnson, a guy that Medved brought from Colorado State to Minnesota. I think outside of the primary creation aspect on the offensive end, I think he does a little bit of everything on both sides of the ball. I mean, he's 77th percentile in catch and shoot, mostly just a stationary guy from the wing or the corner, but shot at 35% overall from three last season. Can attack some closeouts off of that to score at the rim, plays with physicality. Not a fantastic athlete, but he's good enough. He has a wide enough frame and, a good enough leaping ability to maintain that rim efficiency in the Big Ten. 8% offensive rebound rate as well is really solid for a 4-man. And I mean, he can be used as a cutter. There's a little bit of pick and pop upside as well at the 4 position, potentially a little bit of small ball 5, but I don't really think that's going to come into play all that much. I mean, I mostly like him on the defensive side of the ball. I think he's really switchable. He can guard guys on the perimeter while being able to, maintain some in the post. I mean, he could get overwhelmed by some bigger Big Ten front courts, but I do think his versatility is really important on this team. That kind of lacks it in the front court a little bit.
Cody, you already answered my next question. Any other transfers that stand out with the Crocker-Johnson mention? So I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, I was right there. Crocker-Johnson was my guy overall, but I was just kind of tacking on to what Willis was on the offensive side. So I jumped the gun on Jalen Crocker-Johnson. So I apologize.
I'm a big Crocker-Johnson fan, so I just needed him mentioned. Marcus, any other transfers that stand out for you? You mentioned Reynolds and Durkin, but Crocker-Johnson, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm really not sure how I feel about Durkin yet. coming from Davidson, just in watching some of his tape, I'm very curious kind of what his role will be offensively. Like for me, I see him almost strictly as like a catch and shoot and like cutter guy, because he's not like a superb athlete. He doesn't have a quick first step off the bounce. It's not like he is tearing down the rim on dunks. Like I think he's going to have to use a lot more craft in his game. And his ability to get to the rim is going to be highly dependent on just kind of like what matchups he ends up with. So that's my concern with him. I know Torvik loves him for this team, but I don't really know how much I think he's going to be a really consistent, solid player for them, but I don't know, I guess, like what his ceiling really is for them offensively.
How do we feel these guys fit into the Minnesota system?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tack on to his point a little bit about Durkin. I actually think he fits in kind of well. I'm not like super high on like the creation talent here, but I do think his passing instincts are above average for his position. I think he can provide a little bit of secondary creation for this offense, and he's good spot up shooter like you mentioned. I think he's a really good movement shooter as well. Gets his feet set really quick, and has some range to tack onto that. Actually kind of an underrated defender for not being all that athletic. I think he moves his feet really well, and he has really good instincts on that end. So I think he fits in well. It's just a matter of he doesn't really have all that high of a ceiling. He's not going to come into the Big Ten and average 15, 16 a game. He's going to be a secondary role-playing type player. But, yeah, so I think he fits in pretty well to an offense that has a lot of off-ball motion included in it. So, but besides that, I mean, Medved offenses really, they emphasize shooting quite a bit. And there's some guys that he took a shot on. I mean, guys like BJ Omot, who I really don't love all that much. I'm not that high on the shooting talent. He's got a kind of a thin frame, so he kind of struggles to score at the rim as well. He doesn't really defend. So I don't really know. There's some upside in there just with his size. He's 6'8" with some on-ball creation talent, but I'm not all that high on him. And then a guy like Cade Tyson, who had a really rough year at North Carolina last year. The 2 years before at Belmont, he lit it up. He shot 47% over those 2 seasons. But last year, I almost kind of think he got exposed for, playing at some of the lower levels. It just didn't seem like he was ready for power conference basketball. Like the jump shot was just didn't look right. It was a little bit slow. But I do think this is a pretty decent spot for him. It's just going to be a matter of him knocking down shots, which I do think he lands obviously somewhere in between the 29% number and the 47% number he had the 2 years prior. But at the end of the day, I do think he's a depth piece on this roster. But yeah, like I said, Medved, he brought in some shooting. He brought in some guys that have some upside, but the ceiling's pretty low just because the talent isn't all that great.
Marcus,
overall, what do you think?
Yeah, to Cody's point, another name that they kind of took a shot on, Chance Stevens, didn't really play last year at Maryland. Showed the ability he made almost 2 threes a game his freshman year at Loyola Marymount. So maybe there's some upside there as well. Last year only played 7 games, 5 minutes a game at Maryland. Obviously wasn't a lot of room for him to find time there, but now finds himself in a situation where, they're going to be searching for shot makers. They're going to be, trying to figure out what works early in the season as they head into conference play. So, maybe he can provide that spark with some shot making off the bench. I don't hate it. But yeah, no, I think that he did a solid job just kind of in year one, bringing in what he could to piece together, what he likes to do which is, as Cody said, some shooters, and obviously he brought Jalen Crocker-Johnson, so there's some continuity there from Colorado State. So I definitely don't hate the offseason. It's a bit of a different direction, obviously, than Minnesota's been in prior.
Let's do a way too early prediction on the upcoming season. Just a ceiling, maybe a floor. Cody, we'll start with you.
Ceiling is kind of tough to project just because, there's so many new pieces on this roster playing together for the first time. So I'm not even going to say this team can really sniff the tournament at this point. It's just the talent level is just not really there at this point. And, the floor is probably the bottom of the Big Ten. There's a couple teams in this league that we haven't discussed yet that I'm a little bit lower on, but I think they're probably bottom 3 right now.
Yeah.
Potentially could work their way up to 12th or 13th in the league. I just don't see it yet. I am a Niko Medved believer over time. I just don't think it's right now.
Marcus, much of the same from you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I like Niko Medved. I just don't think this team. It's really hard to, right, going from the Mountain West to the Big Ten and in year one, putting together a team that can really compete in a conference like the Big Ten. So I think over time, Niko Medved is going to do a fine job and bring in competitive players that are going to compete in the Big Ten. So I just don't think it's going to be this year. So I'm not going to give a ceiling, but I don't expect the tournament. I'll say it that way.
Maybe a Big Ten tournament.
I think
Maybe.
I think the Golden Gopher fans, are unfortunately going to be in for another rough season. But better days ahead. I like Niko Medved.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here with the Golden Gophers. As always, thank you for listening to the Mainly Hoops podcast.